what you can do in the beginning, like if you don't have a ton of customers and you feel like your closing rate really isn't that good, take the pressure out of your sales call and just start having conversations with people. Like do it for like market research instead of like putting all this pressure on yourself that you have to sell to them. Just get on the phone with these people and start talking to them. And you're going to realize that when you start talking to them, all of a sudden you're going to start closing because you're actually having a human conversation with them. And then it'll all come full circle eventually. And knowing your customer and how to talk to them, like that's just going to make your close rate go through the roof.
Like I say, if you're starting to feel pressure in your jugular right here during your sales call, you're doing it wrong because that's like anxiety building up. You know what I mean? Right there. Like you can feel it. You can feel it's tense. Just have a chat. Is that what you're basically saying?
Yeah, like just chill out. Like my big thing when I do sales calls is like I have a very relaxed personality. So
Would you
like if I have a
recommend
sales,
smoking a blunt before a sales call or no?
if you're Canadian, yeah.
Gotcha.
Like I literally will sit back in my chair, I'll put my feet up, I'll get comfortable, I'll throw some yoga pants on because I just want to be chill. Keeping in mind, I don't do sales calls anymore, but back in the day when I did, I would get as relaxed as I possibly could because I wanted that to come off in my voice. There's nothing like sounding like a telemarketer who's trying to sell someone car insurance over the phone. You're not going to close a lot of deals. You have to chill out. You have to just have conversations with people.
Hi, Jade. I just want to start out by saying thank you for jumping on this call today. How are you? How are things? All right. You're like,
How's the weather?
how's the weather? You know what I mean? If you say how are you like in the beginning like that, there's certain buzzwords that just make you sound like a vacuum salesman. You know what I mean? And you don't want to be pushing Kirby's at 40. Trust me. You know what I mean?
No. And that's like what we train, like even like our appointment setters. We're like, yo, there's this, what we'll do is we'll get them to role play and they'll have their script ready and they're shaking and they're good to go. And it's like, hi, this is Jade calling from Black House Marketing. And it's like, you see what you just did there with that
Yeah.
inflection in your voice?
Hi. Hi.
Get rid
Like
of it.
as soon as I hear that, I'm like, I tell the ISA manager, you need a review call right there. Like they're at a 12 right now. We need about a 5.5 or a 6. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like calm down.
that's the telemarketer voice. It's like
Yeah.
back in the 90s, like everyone used to make jokes about people's phone voice. No one talks
Yeah.
about that anymore because no one
Yeah.
talks on the phone
Yeah.
now. But it's like that like phone voice where all of a sudden it's like you get this like extra peppiness,
Yeah.
excitement.
Ah. Yeah, there's like voices like DJ voice, strip club DJ voice, you know what I mean? Welcome to Power 105.95. Like nobody talks like that in real life, and it's the same thing telemarketers.
Yeah.
Totally
And
100%.
we hang up on those people all day, every day.
Facts. Facts.
Just and you're gonna get hung up on. And guess what? The other thing too is like when you're more chill on the phone and you just sit back and you're just talking to them, you can like one of my favorite things to do in sales is like I will actually unsell someone on the service and I'll be like, yeah, like I don't know if this is something I'd be able to help you with, like just based on where you're at. And they'll start convincing me why they're a good fit to work with me. And I'm like, just based on what you're telling me, I don't know. I have closed so many sales from unselling people, just being like chilled out and being like, I don't care if I get this sale. I don't even know if I want to work with this person. And when you all of a sudden change
100%.
that tone, oof,
Yeah.
it
I,
changes.
like you ever have that feeling like when a call is going smooth and when you're like newer, you're going through your pitch deck and you're like, man, I'm crushing this shit. Like I'm hitting all the points, I'm smooth. And then at the end, it's like, I got to think about it. And you're like, well, what part do you need to think about? You know what I mean? Like, you go into the, if I did this, would you do that mode? But then there's other times where I'm just like chill and like, bro, I don't really give a fuck if you know what I mean. Like I don't need you, but I want your business. I don't need your business. You know what I mean? And then that's when it kind of clicks and it works out. You know?
Yeah, it makes a huge difference when it's like, I don't care if I get the sale. Sometimes like someone's voice will just annoy me and I'll be like, I don't know if I want this sale. This just isn't really something that I need right now. And that all of a sudden changes everything when you have that power to just be like, no, I'm good. That's all of a sudden when people are like, no, like I want to work with you. And then you
Yeah.
become they're on the defense, you're on the offensive line. Which brings me segues me nicely into point 4. Become the king slash queen on the offensive line by always asking questions. So like one thing that Zach and I do, or we don't do this anymore, but when we were like, we're going to be the greatest salespeople in the world and Grant Cardone is the greatest human on earth, we would literally be like having morning coffee, doing that whole like ask or answer every question with a question, and whoever loses, I don't know, gets shamed. Um, but like,
Doxed. Gets doxed online.
right? But like when you're on a sales call, like, and this isn't even just sales, this is like when you have customers that you're trying to manage. You don't ever want to be on the defensive where they're asking all the questions. You always want to be in the driver's seat asking questions, because when you say something, it really doesn't matter. When they say it, it changes it. And you can actually persuade people to get their egos associated with what they're saying, and then they will take that to the grave with them. If you literally just ask someone a question, by like figure out, like, you can map it out. Here's where I want this person to be, and here's where they are right now. How do I ask a series of questions to get them to say what I want to say? And if you can master doing that, like, and you can get people's egos tied to like the state that you want them to be in, there you're always going to close the sale, because now they're emotional. If their ego's involved, their emotions are involved. And nobody buys off of logic, everyone buys off of emotion. So like if you can figure out a way to always be the person asking the questions, you're going to be successful. The second they start going, so can you tell me more about the ads? Or can you tell me more about the ISAs? Or can you tell me more about the CRM? It's like, why? None of that matters. The end result is you are going to close more deals if I give you more prospects into your pipeline and you actually have conversations with them. That's it. That's the basis of it. And like the number one question that you can always ask when someone's asking a stupid question is just ask, what do you mean? Because 9 times out of 10, if they're asking something really stupid and you keep just saying, what do you mean? They're going to realize like, okay, yeah, you're right. That is kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, I'll be using that on my next sales call. Like, what do you mean?
I use it all the time. And
What
like,
do you
I'll
mean?
use it like in a repeat pattern of like, someone's like, so can you tell me more about like the ads that you do? And I'll be like, what do you mean? Well,
I
like
feel
the
like
ads,
I feel like you got to do this with your shoulders, then tilt your head when you say that. Like, what do you mean?
right? You have to. You have to be
Yeah,
super chill about it. Or just like if you're on a Zoom call, we do all our calls on Zoom calls. And again,
yeah,
highly recommend doing this, because then you can make eye contact with them.
right.
You can just be like,
Do you,
what do
well,
you
all right. All
mean?
right. Do you stare at the camera eyeball or the screen? Like I always have a problem with that. Like what do I stare at? Do I
You
look at
got to
the
stare at the camera so they feel like you're looking right at them.
gotta just like eye to eye like this. You know what I mean? Like you get to the close, you're like, so Visa, MasterCard, or Express, how would you like to get started? You know what I mean? Like just
Yeah.
get all up in it.
Yeah, get right in their eyes, and they're like,
Mhm.
what is happening? And then they're not going to ask you those stupid questions. If you do that enough times, like you just keep going like, what do you mean? They're eventually going to stop asking questions, and you can just quite easily get on the offense, because like
Right.
if you have a good sales presentation, you don't need to have you don't need to sit there explaining, answering all their questions constantly. So
Facts.